All right, everybody, we're back. We have Ioannis Syrigos on the line and April Holloway joining us all the way from where?
Ecuador, South America.
Wow! Welcome to Skywatchers Radio. So
Wow.
much of a pleasure to have you two on here. Now,
Thank you. Thanks for having us on the show.
Now, what are you folks doing on in Ecuador right now? Because I know you're very busy. So, what is exactly you're partaking on in Ecuador?
Well, we've got the Ancient-Origins website, which we actually started up in Australia, but there's a lot of ancient sites over here in South America. So we came over here so we could check out a lot of the ancient places around here and investigate them and explore them in a little bit more depth. So we're really surrounded by a lot of ancient things over here.
Nice. Now, the site is Ancient-Origins, right? That's the main website.
That's it.
Ancient-Origins. And how long have you two been interested in the entire subject of ancient history, ancient aliens? How long have you been interested in this subject?
Well, that's, I think, more than maybe 10 years in total. But we decided at some point to start Ancient-Origins as a hobby because of our personal interest and desire to investigate our ancient past. And, well, it grew very rapidly from there. We found out that there's a huge audience that is interested in ancient history, but not, the textbooks type.
Right.
People want answers to questions that haven't been answered, to learn about mysteries of our past and alternative perspectives. Now, the main difference between us and the other sites is that we try to present both mainstream and selective alternative perspectives, and we try to give credibility to the healthy alternative perspectives, because unfortunately there is a negativity with everything alternative, and this is because of the history of how alternative perspectives started and how some unprofessionals at the beginning did all this negativity.
Absolutely.
And of course the third part is to try to focus directly on exploration and research.
So it really started off as like a personal passion that both of us had, and then it really took off from there.
Have you noticed any major setbacks or any major blowback from other folks within the historical society, I guess, people that are doing these kind of research compared to what you're doing? Maybe.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we certainly have. Actually, there's a recent case, probably can't go into too much detail about it because it has turned a little sour, but we did an investigation here in Ecuador into Father Crespi. I don't know if you've heard about him, but really interesting story about this priest here in Ecuador who was given thousands of strange artifacts from the indigenous people here. And these artifacts had like Sumerian connection. They had strange hieroglyphs that hadn't been deciphered. They had images of really weird beings and things like that. So we started investigating this subject directly with the monastery, the church where he was posted to, and we managed to track down the location of the artifacts. We were in a basement storage room in the central bank of Ecuador. And as we dug a little bit deeper, we basically hit a few brick walls as we were told to leave the subject alone and not dig any deeper. And we were given, a few warnings that we shouldn't go there. Wow. We were given a few threats, actually.
Yeah.
So.
Wow. What do you think that is?
Wow.
I mean, is it a local thing? They just don't want their mythology messed with, or are they afraid of what could be the truth being different from what they believe? What do you think it causes that?
Well, I think it could be one of two things, I think, in my opinion. One option is that these artifacts really go against the known history of Ecuador. So if there are Sumerian artifacts in Ecuador, there could be the possibility that there was travel in the ancient past from Mesopotamia to Ecuador, and that doesn't really fit in with the history
That'd
books.
be huge, right? That'd be huge.
Yeah.
Huge
Well, don't
change.
forget, they also
That's
say that they found ancient Egyptian artifacts in the Grand Canyon as well, too.
Exactly, yeah, it's similar sort of case. And then the second thing is it's possible that these artifacts were sort of sold on the black market and that, no one wants that to be known.
I'm not sure if it's sold, because the Vatican is involved in this story, and some artifacts were shipped to the Vatican.
Oh, wow.
And so if these artifacts were real and not fakes, I'm pretty sure that the Vatican would express interest in them.
Unless, of course, they want to avoid getting interested in it and avoid the topic of it. You know,
definitely.
You know, the Vatican will probably want to shut it down because it goes against the good.
Exactly.
Even though they've been making...
But we know that the Vatican is collecting artifacts and collecting things from all over the world. So
oh, yeah.
They don't agree, they try to hide all the evidence.
No, not only that, I mean, they've gone out of their way now to, like, kind of change their stance on a couple of different issues. Even with the topic of aliens, they've changed their stance pretty radically in the last few years, saying that, aliens could possibly be, something that we're going to encounter because they are also part of God's plan.
They would even baptize one, right?
Yeah, they have no issues with that. So,
I remember that.
Like an alien would want us to baptize them.
Yeah.
Okay. How arrogant are we? Come on.
They throw them like water on the wicked witch of the east or whatever, right?
So imagine a super advanced civilization approaching Earth and then the Pope going to them to baptize them.
I am so embarrassed for the human race right now.
And this is why aliens don't come down and talk to us anymore, because of stuff like that. Yeah, this is exactly why. Now, I mean, is it your opinion that the Vatican is keeping secrets when it comes to a lot of the ancient stuff? Really, do you really believe that to be the case? Because I 100% believe that they know a lot more.
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, the Vatican archives, apart from the fact that they have a
huge archive, right? Like thousands of things are in there. Like
they published some of them on a website, isn't it?
Published very selective.
Yes, very selective. But definitely they are collecting because the Catholic Church for centuries they've been trying to create the establishment. So anything against the establishment is gathered by them.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. Now,
yeah.
Now, going back to Sumeria and that civilization and the Sumerians, have you folks encountered anything similar to like what, say, Sitchin was working on when it came to the Sumerian text and the Anunnaki and stuff like that?
We've covered quite a few articles on the website about the Anunnaki. One thing that we try to do on Ancient-Origins is present both sides. So in our audience, we have everyone from hardcore scientists to ancient astronaut theorists and everything in between. So, when we publish articles about the Anunnaki and the story of creation from the Sumerian tablets, we get a lot of kickback from half the audience, which is the scientific type, and then we get, a lot of positive feedback from the more alternative ones, and it really opens a lot of interesting debate between the two sides. But the story of creation from the Sumerian tablets is really quite fascinating. They talk about these sky beings coming down and creating people, and this is like a common theme that you see throughout so many different ancient cultures. And on all continents, they all talk about these sky beings creating humans and ruling over them, and it's just very interesting to see the consistency among the creation stories.
Yeah, no kidding. And it seems to be like a repetitive pattern too. Not only with one religion, but most of these religions have similar stories also. Crystal, I know that you wanted to get something out before. I'm sorry I cut you off. Do you want to ask a question?
I did, because I like that what a lot of articles that I read on the Ancient-Origins site really takes it from the Aborigine people, civilizations, races that you would probably overlook when you're researching this type of thing. So I was just curious that why, what got you into that? What made you think we're going to target this group of people and look at their religion and hear what they have to say?
Well, we really wanted to look at ancient history from multiple perspectives. So, you hear about ancient history from your textbooks, from what archaeology tells you, but it's not even half the story. And we discovered through talking to a lot of Indigenous people, we spent, a few days with the Aborigines in Australia who gave us really interesting insight into their background and the way they viewed the world. And it's just so different to what you normally hear about. So we really wanted to present these different perspectives on the website and to open up ancient history from all corners.
I love it. I do. That's so.
In fact, I have an interesting story when we were with the Aboriginal people in Australia when we went to investigate remember this ancient rock place, and this is the first time that somebody is asking this question. And so this Aboriginal elder asked me, what is these 3 dots in the Ancient-Origins logo? If you see, there are 3 dots in the middle, in the blue space.
Mm-hmm.
So I told him that it is the 3 stars from the Sirius constellation.
Orion, wasn't it?
Orion, sorry.
Orion, right.
Yeah. And then he was surprised, but he hugged me because they believe that their origins are from the Orion constellation.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Why?
Okay.
That's curious. Yeah.
Yeah, why Orion? Yeah.
Why Orion? What's their mythology? What do they believe?
Well, not all. I mean, there are many different tribes, so not all of them, I think, believe the same thing. But this, according to this elder, they were created again by sky beings that came from the Orion constellation.
Wow.
Interesting. And did they provide any sort of like documentation, proof, or anything that you could point at? Besides,
he was actually very secretive, and he told us that, being an elder, the information is passed on to him from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next, and you have to earn the privilege of hearing that information. So it's not, you can't just meet someone, ask them a question, and they'll tell you. You'd have to spend a long time earning their trust and respect before they would pass on anything of great depth, to you.
Right.
It sounds almost like a 33rd degree Mason. They have to go through a lot.
Sounds
of
like
Yes.
Scientology. I'm thinking it sounds like Scientology to me.
Wow.
It's funny we bring.
It had more of an Amway feel to me, but
Well, look, it's funny. It's funny we bring all this up, but do you think some of these secret societies that are known to roam the planet have anything to do with these ancient, histories that we have?
Well, I'm not sure. There are a few. Yeah, there are a few, especially some Gnostic societies. They believe that the beings that are called gods and angels and all these different hierarchies are beings that with flesh and blood that are superior to us.
Right.
So, I mean, you can connect this to extraterrestrials, I think, very easily.
Rosicrucians as well.
Rosicrucians, they don't have the... yes, but not in the sense of extraterrestrials. Again, they say it as spiritual and superior beings.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a
the
little
term
different.
extraterrestrial is not used, at least from the societies that I know,
Right.
exactly like this. But it's used like angels and superior beings. So.
Right. Which it makes perfect sense. Something coming down from the heavens. We've talked about this on the show many times. Coming down from the heavens 2,000, 5,000 years ago would be looked at as an angel or some kind of a spiritual, godly being. I mean, that's why.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an easy, common thing for them to have made a mistake with, and it's something that we actually have debated on here, guys. Where we've talked about, well, what if all religion known to man was brought down from the heavens, and everything that we know as a religious work or religious stories, which we know are lifted from other stories that go back many, many generations. What if all this really did come from another star system or another planet, and it was brought here, and then now we've been telling these stories for millennia?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective, because when you trace things, you trace back stories, you can keep going back and back and back until you can't go back any further, and you wonder how it all started. I mean, even you look at stories in the Bible and you can see the exact same stories coming out of, Mesopotamia and Sumerian tablets, exactly the same. And, it's been, passed from one culture to another, and you just wonder where it's all started from.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
especially in the documents of Enoch in the Bible, you can see very clearly that we are not talking about something just spiritual. We are talking something that is superior, and it has flesh and blood, and it has vehicles to go from one place to the other. So,
I think this is a good way to segue a little bit then into that article that you shared with me, because what I found really fascinating about it were the pictures. It's got a very interesting picture. There's an article up on their site. It's called The Mysterious Aboriginal Rock Art of the, and I will let her pronounce it because she said it so beautifully.
Wanjinas.
Yeah, can you go into a little bit about that?
I really could not have pronounced that, by the way. That would have been
I
so
could
dirty
not have
on the
either.
radio.
I'd have killed it.
That would have just come off dirty if I would have tried, but thank you for doing it for us.
Yeah, this is really fascinating. I love this. I love this story. This is in the Kimberley region of Australia, which is sort of the northwest region. Most of it's actually desert. It's very barren. There are hundreds, probably thousands actually, of rock paintings of these figures or beings, which are called the Wanjinas, and what they look like is they have white skin. They have big, black, almond-shaped eyes, no mouth, and some kind of either like a halo or a helmet-looking thing around the head. And these are painted repetitively over and over again throughout this. The Aboriginal people didn't have a written or don't have a written language, so all their stories were passed down verbally over tens of thousands of years, from one generation to the next. Right. And they call these stories their dream time, which is basically their story of creation. So according to the Dreamtime legends, these Wanjina were sky gods or sky beings that came down from the Milky Way and created the Aboriginal people, or created mankind, and taught them and ruled over them as gods. And then eventually the Wanjina disappeared. Some of them, they say, went down into the earth, and the others went into the sky. And they say that the Wanjina can still be seen sometimes as lights in the sky. And the Aboriginal people, the descendants, of the ancient civilization, still today revere these Wanjina, and they're considered so sacred that only very honoured people in the tribe, like the elders, only they are allowed to even paint these figures. Anyone else who would try and represent this figure would be severely punished, even today. So they are considered extremely sacred. And the tribes that still live in this region,
they don't cut off their fingers or hands or anything, so they can't paint anymore, huh?
Well,
that's serious. No, yeah.
Spear through the leg, I think.
Wow.
But yeah, this is really fascinating. There's been, of course, multiple interpretations by people today about what these Wanjina represent. Some people say, they're just stylized representations of people. But then why would the Aborigines paint them with white skin if all of them had black skin? And then there are others who say, they're some, shamanic visions, or they're owls, or different kind of interpretations. But when you look at them, they just fit exactly with the representations we see today of extraterrestrials, in art.
Well, the almond eyes, no mouth. That's your classic gray, which leads you to believe that, they've been around for a very long time. But also what's funny about the way the story is presented is that it really does correlate with, like, the Sumerian stuff, where the ancient aliens came to the earth, seated men under their image, their likeness type of deal, and used as first slave labor, and then left. Yeah. It's like it's a story that correlates in different parts of the world, which makes perfect sense. Also, if we are getting visited, thousands of years ago, they would not just go to one place on the planet; they go to multiple places. So multiple cultures are having these experiences with these folks that are coming down from the heavens, leaving their footprint on each one of these different parts of the world, and leaving these tales that man has been telling for the last few thousand years. But it could all be interconnected to the one main source of these beings coming down and just spreading across the earth.
Exactly right. And the Hopi, the Hopi people of Arizona, they have exactly the same legends, about...
their legends are beautiful.
The same thing about the sky beings came down, and they, in their legends, they talk about disasters that happened in the past, like the Ice Age, and one disaster was to do with fire, and they said the sky beings came down and took them into subterranean caverns and caves and allowed them to survive, and they taught them how to grow food, how to store food, and they educated them. So we see this pattern, time and time again on all continents of the earth.
Well, I mean, even the Bible talks about the ancient gods, what do they call the Nephilim, the giants?
Yeah.
Again, same story. Even in the Bible itself, we have this tale of beings from the sky coming down to visit us and interacting with us and mating with our women and creating hybrid babies. I mean, all this stuff is right in the Bible. It's funny how some folks look at the Bible and they just skip over that part of the Bible.
Yes.
So when you tell them, well, when you have this, and I've had this discussion with so many religious folks when I tell them, I'm like, do you know about the alien stuff in the Bible? And they're like, there's no alien stuff in the Bible. That's ridiculous. That's preposterous. And then I ask them, do you know about the slavery stuff in the Bible? Oh, there's no slavery. It's a book of God. God wrote the Bible. And I'm like, really? Well, let me pull out the book. And I pull out the book, and it blows their mind when they see stuff like that. But it's amazing because it's like these folks they wrote the Bibles, they wrote these different, books of religions, of the different religions. They were seeding in there not only information that, it could be taken as literal, some as mythology, but they were seeding in there information that I think is very accurate to what happened thousands of years ago as well, like the Nephilim and all these different cultures that experienced these alien gods.
Yeah.
And it's easy for people to dismiss it nowadays and say,
Completely.
It's just symbolic or, it's myths and legends. But, myths, people don't just make up stories for the sake of it. The myths and legends came from a basis, and there's been so much evidence recently which shows that there's truth behind so many of these myths. They actually find scientific evidence now for a lot of these legends and myths of the past.
No, it's true. It's funny. One argument I've had for many years is that a lot of the mythology that we've had, for example, like leprechauns, ghosts, demons, goblins, all this stuff is, in a sense, UFO related. It was just interpreted badly by the folks at that time period. Because, look, the leprechaun mythology is how old?
Oh, it must be thousands.
Right.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
If let's just say 1,000 years ago, a little tiny alien comes down to do whatever they wanted to do here, and some folks are in Ireland somewhere and they see this thing come down. Oh, it's a leprechaun. They create whatever they want to create for it, just to give them an answer. Right, and then go looking for Lucky Charms. Exactly. But the whole point is that a lot of our mythology could just be just that, misinterpretations.
Yeah,
exactly, because ancient people, they conveyed these events and occurrences, through the filter of their own understanding and knowledge and beliefs of that time.
Now, have the two of you done any research at all on the Nazca lines?
We haven't been there to see it ourselves, but we actually plan to go sometime this year to check out the Nazca lines.
So excited for you.
Yeah, it'd be amazing to see it in person. But very, very interesting case about the Nazca, because the fact is you can't see what the images are from the ground. You can only see what the figures are from the air. So why? Why did they create these figures if they can only be seen from the air?
Some of them, some of the figures can be seen from hills or other mountains around, but there are a few that you can only see from the air, so it doesn't make sense for them to make them.
No, it doesn't. Let me ask you guys a question. Have you had a case that's really been, like a smoking gun for you, where you sat down and you've talked to, one group and they presented you with something and you were like, oh my gosh, we absolutely did come from, sky people, or what, whatever they say?
Well, we've seen plenty of evidence for it, but I don't know about a smoking gun. One particular thing, I think there's still not something you can put your finger on which says, okay, that's it, 100% proof. There's so many different things around the world that point to that as an explanation, but there's not one thing that would convince the whole world. You could take this one thing and show it to them and say, there you go, there's your proof.
Right. And you're always going to have the one guy saying in the background, no, I could tell you how they made that. That's a fake.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
No matter how real it is. Yeah.
I mean, you see the whole Ancient Aliens series on it's History Channel, isn't it?
History Channel.
Yeah.
Right.
They present so many different things around the world that point to the ancient astronaut theory as being true. But then you see other websites which dismiss every single point on, it's sort of the debunking ancient aliens, and they'll go through every single point and find an explanation. Some of the explanations are, I would say, valid, but other explanations or justifications that they give are just crazy. The way they dismiss it, it's almost just as dogmatic as.
Now, with that said, I got to tell you, folks, we've had on the show Dr. Michael Heiser. I don't know if you're familiar with his work, but he was very, very adamant in trying to debunk Zecharia Sitchin for a long time. And he was on Coast to Coast with Art Bell. He's been on Coast to Coast with George Norrie. And he openly challenged Sitchin to come out on the air and debate him on his work.
Okay, that's interesting.
And Sitchin not only turned him down, he refused to ever talk about this man again. Because he knew that he was right about what he was saying. And I've seen a lot of the debates that Michael Heiser has put together online. They're not really debates, but they're more like lectures that he's done on the subject of Sitchin and his work. A lot of it is very debunkable. It really is, sadly enough. But there's a kernel of truth, which even Michael Heiser says, well, while he is wrong on 80% of what he's saying, there's this 20% that I cannot explain, and it looks like alien also. And that's, I think, the nugget where Sitchin was building the rest of his story arc, with, where he figured out some knowledge that really was there from the Sumerians. Because let me tell you, the Sumerians, I don't think were messing around when they talked about the sky gods. I don't think that
they were
was
just too
Sitchin.
smart. They were too smart of a people to be messing around with that.
And I don't think Sitchin was, such a genius that he could make that up and thought he could fool everybody. I think there was something there, and he might have embellished a lot of other things and changed things around, like Dr. Heiser said, and I'm 100% sure that Heiser is, right on that. Now, I can't speak Hebrew, but he can, and some of the translations that Sitchin was going with was wrong, and he kind of proved it in his lecture, and bored me to tears, because sitting there watching a lecture of a person explaining how Hebrew works is really not exciting. Sounds like a lot of fun.
I feel like John and April are having the most exciting time. We are not, because they get to go to all these sites and talk to these people, and I am so jealous.
No, but see, that's a cool thing, Crystal. They actually get to go to these places. Like on my bucket list, on my bucket list before I die is something you folks are going to experience pretty soon. You're going to go see the Nazca lines. Are you kidding me? That's on my bucket list. I want to see that before I die. So, I mean, I'm so jealous of what you do. I really, really, truly am. And you're actually on the field doing the research, which is, it's a lot more convincing than somebody who's just writing books and never actually goes out there. Yeah. So, now, speaking of which, you folks have books, right? You've written books? No books?
No books.
No, we don't. We have books on the site, but we haven't personally written them. So we have
they're busy.
About 50 we have 50 or so like guest authors and experts that contribute to the books and to the website. So they come from all different fields, like you probably know Brian Forster and others in the field who are independent researchers and authors. So they do all the writing. They do a lot of the writing. They've done some books for us, but not us personally.
Are you planning to maybe do that in the future? Because I know with all the research you're doing.
Yes. It's just a time factor. We're out there, investigating so many different things. It's hard to just sit down and write a book. But we would love to do something like that in the future.
Yeah.
No, something like something like the History Channel came along and offered a gig like Ancient Aliens type of show. Would that be something you folks would be interested in also, I'm assuming?
Yes, but not along the same lines, because we try to not take one particular perspective. So, we definitely have a lot of ancient alien stuff on our website, but we also have different perspectives that counter that as well. So we like to have a balance of all sides. So we probably wouldn't focus in on one particular angle, but have a bit more of an open door to.
I think the best way to persuade someone is to present a subject from both sides, with all the arguments from both sides, and let the person decide.
That's the best. Actually, that's the best way of doing it. And in fact, let me ask you: is it insulting as a person and as a human being when everybody absolutely jumps the gun and says, "Oh, this must be alien related" all the time? For example, the pyramids. Everybody's like, "Oh, the aliens supposed to build the pyramids, and there's no way humans could have done it at all."
Yes.
That's a little insulting, right? Because we're pretty clever human beings, I think.
Yeah, and this is why.
Usually we're clever. Doesn't mean we always are.
The alternative subjects have so much negativity from people.
What's the guy's name on Ancient Aliens? Georgia
Tukalus.
Oh, yes. And there's this little image of him
everywhere.
Yes, saying aliens.
The aliens.
Oh, let me tell you something. That meme saved him from being deported. I'm not even kidding, because he was here on a visa and it was expired, and then meme broke and became super popular. He became a superstar. Next thing you know, they're giving him a green card. He's staying. That man has made that meme work for him, and it's incredible. But yeah, you're absolutely right. With him, everything is aliens. If they found a boat that was older than 1,000 years old, aliens must have built that boat.
You mean Giorgio is from where?
He's not from this country. I don't know exactly.
Okay, well, he
origins.
certainly sounds American. He doesn't sound like he's from another country.
No, he's not. He's not.
Greek,
I think. Yeah, he's Greek.
Does he have Greek? I thought he just had Greek blood, but he sounds all American.
Yeah, Greek American.
He's Greek American, yeah.
America. Yeah.
Let me ask you too, because we briefly talked about, some people went into the sky and then some of them went underground.
He was born in Switzerland, by the way.
Good to know. Have you been in any way off, so far away? Good Americans, we know our geography.
For real.
Have you been in any cave systems, anything like that? Have you met any people that kind of took you and said that this is where they went when they left us, type deals, or anything like that?
That's a good question.
Well, the last one that we did was the Tayos cave system, which is where supposedly the artifacts of Father Krebsty are originated from.
It's what Eric von Daniken talked about in his Gold of the Gods book, the Taos Caves. Yeah.
So we went there to the local Aboriginal people. We stayed with them. We had talks with them. We interviewed them to tell us about the story about the Tayos Cave and how all these artifacts were found. And actually, they presented a completely different view than the one that the church presented for Father Crespi. So basically, they said that Father Crespi went there and took all of their gold and all of the artifacts that was found inside the caves. Now, it's not. They couldn't say exactly from which cave it came, but the Tayos Cave is a huge cave system, which is hundreds of kilometers.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's largely unexplored. So who knows what is in there? And we had this expedition in 1970 something.
1970s, and that was Neil Armstrong.
With Neil Armstrong organizing an international expedition with the British government and the US and the Ecuadorian government. They came here trying to find the origins of these artifacts. And supposedly they didn't find anything of importance, but the Aboriginal, the local people here, they told us that they came with helicopters and they took things from the caves.
Wow.
Doesn't shock me. Yeah.
No surprise there.
So although officially they said they didn't find anything of importance, if the army was involved and if you do such a huge expedition that costed hundreds of thousands of dollars, I mean, you don't do something like this if there's no evidence that you are going to find something.
Right.
Yeah, no kidding.
Right.
Now, question, have you folks been over to Iraq at all in the last couple of years?
No.
No, another one on the bucket list, though.
It's in the
I know
list. I
know Iraq.
Listen to you
guys, I'm going to have to expand my bucket list. Thanks.
I know Iraq is a beautiful place. It looks like it's been untouched by society, but Iraq, of course, is also Samaria. That's where Samaria was. When 9/11 happened and we went, to war against Iraq, one of the first things that the United States did was they invaded all the museums, all points of history, and they took a lot of artifacts from these places.
Yes, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Now, my question is, why did this become the focal point of their search early on? We're looking for terrorists or terrorist cells.
Yeah.
Why are we going to history museums and taking all these artifacts?
What were they doing there?
Yeah.
That's the question.
It doesn't make sense for the army to do that. It doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah. There are photos of them as well at ancient sites. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's like an unfinished pyramid in Iraq. And not exactly a pyramid. It's anyway a huge structure that the ancient civilization never finished it. It hadn't been fully excavated yet, but the U.S. Army was there. What were they doing there? It's very strange.
Right. Why be there?
Yeah. Do you ever get any U.S. officials that come snooping around when you're out doing some research?
No, haven't encountered that yet. No.
Good. Good for you. Stay under the radar.
Lucky, stay under the radar. Don't write any books. That's a trigger right there.
Here in Ecuador, the local army is doing a lot of research in the caves, and the locals told us that they are sending they're sending soldiers to explore all the caves in the Tayo system.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't know why the military's involved.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, whenever the military is involved, I'm pretty sure it cannot be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, have you come across more, indigenous people that have talked about, we like to call it the hollow earth here on the show, but, the cave system or the sky people, going into the ground, them still being there? Has there been any talk about what they're doing there? What are they waiting for? When are they coming back? Any of that?
Well, there's, going back to the Wangina story, they said that where these paintings are connected to water sources like lakes, rivers, and so on. So you find the paintings, next to a lake and things. And according to the mythology, they do these paintings of the Wangina where the Wangina people went down into the lakes as well. So not just into underground caves, but also underwater. And they said that these beings are still there under the water. They have some base or something under the water, and that's where they do the artwork to honour them on the side of these lakes and so on. But I haven't heard anything about why. They just say, oh yeah, they're there. They went there, but they don't say, what are they doing down there? But they do believe, the Aboriginal people in Australia do believe that even though the Wangina went away, that they still have control over the people.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say they definitely do over those people, at least, at the very least, with how, revered they still are to them. So they definitely made a lasting impression.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do find it interesting that a lot of reports are coming out, the last few years of ships coming out from the ocean, coming from that part of the planet. A lot of USOs are coming out of there, which really it makes you think, well, maybe there's some truth to this lore when you see this much activity in that area.
Yes.
How shocking is that for you folks when you read about the activity of USOs? I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with the entire USO phenomenon.
USO, what's the S?
It's undersea objects. Basically, it's a UFO coming from the ocean instead of coming from the sky down. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Incas have a similar story with the origins.
Unidentified submerged objects.
Well, that's the longer term, right?
That's
undersea object is a shorter version.
Yeah. Now, you said the Incas have a story like that?
Yeah, the Incas. Is it for the Lake
Titicaca?
Titicaca, yeah.
Lake
Yeah,
Titicaca,
this relates
right.
Yeah, they said the gods, their gods. Who was the first one? Viracocha. Yeah, the first god came from the bottom of the lake, and then when he left, he went back to the lake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And created the people from there.
Yes.
That's really interesting. Oh, just like a cave system. I mean, you said, so huge and so unexplored. The ocean, same thing.
Yes, exactly.
Even more so.
No idea.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
The Taos caves. There's also mythology surrounding the Taos caves that Ioannis mentioned. The Shwa people are the indigenous people that they're like the guardians of the Taos caves. So, in order to even venture into these caves, Ioannis had to get permission from the Shwa, the native Shwa people. And they talk about seeing lights in the sky over the caves. And what else were they saying?
And lights in the caves. I mean, there is one cave that we are going to explore this summer that the Aboriginal people, the indigenous people here, they don't dare to get in because some nights they hear sounds and they see lights in the depths of the cave. So they haven't explored it. So we asked them if we could explore it during the dry season, which is this summer. And we'll try to go and see what we can find there.
Now, when you explore some of these caves, if you do find stuff, how do you report it? Do you bring it back with you? Do you leave it there and just take photos? What do you guys do with some of the stuff you might find?
That's a very good question.
That's a very good question. But in my opinion, if we find something of value, we don't intend to give any publicity until it's properly examined, it's properly backed up, so to have all the evidence with it, and then we can give publicity. Because otherwise, if you find something and you give it publicity and it is something that is important,
right.
The next thing is probably that somebody else will come and tell you stop your research or take it away, or
Right. Well, good luck. Good luck. That sounds. I will try to check in with you guys when you come back to make sure that you do come back, because you're going into the scary cave with the lights. They're not going.
Yeah.
But you guys are like, we're going. We're just right in there. That's wow.
Brave souls, these two.
Yep. I've heard that there have been reports of people finding old skulls and stuff, or skeletons of ancient bodies and stuff, and even giants found in caves. Have you ever heard about this?
Yes, actually there was a recent announcement here in Ecuador about a 7 to 8 foot giant skeleton that was found here. Actually, there was one giant skeleton found in 2013 in a region called Loja in Ecuador, and then some researchers came over from a university in Germany, and they found 4 or 5 other giant skeletons between 7 and 8 foot. And apparently they've taken those bones back to the university in Germany. I called the university and they said, oh no, we know nothing about that. I couldn't actually get in touch with the researcher who supposedly has the bones.
I know one of those researchers, I'm sure it's probably maybe Klaus Donna, is somebody
he's definitely been involved in the giants.
He's been involved in the giants too. He says that he has a bone of I think it was a foot or a heel or something of a giant. I can't remember how tall he says. I can't remember the measurements, but so he himself claims to have actual bone from it. So
yes, I've heard that too. Yeah. Yes.
Somebody I've been trying to get with. I know Klaus a little bit, and so next time I get a hold of him, I'm going to try to get him on our shows here and have a little talk.
Yeah, that'd be good. But there's also a lot of the indigenous people in Ecuador talk about an ancient race of giants that were in the country, white-skinned.
Sounds like the Nephilim.
Yeah,
it could be. But this is also throughout many Native American legends.
Yeah.
And the Adena people, Native American, they had these giant mounds, and about 100 years ago, or maybe a bit less, the Smithsonian apparently uncovered giant skeletons. I don't know if it was in Ohio or Mississippi, and they actually reported it in the newspaper. So there's still newspaper clippings from the Smithsonian saying we found these giant skeletons and so on.
Now,
go ahead.
Were those anywhere near any of those serpent mounds I know that are located over there in Ohio area and stuff like that? I believe. Okay, yeah, because I know Ross Hamilton, and of course the Vieira brothers work on all that whole deal through Chasing the Lost Giants television show. But Ross Hamilton is your guy there on the serpent mound. So yeah, okay, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I think quite a few giant skeletons were found in that region. But it seems to have really been covered up because, you speak to the Smithsonian now and they just deny everything, even though there are actual newspaper clippings from them, saying we found these giant skeletons. They just
what do you think that is, though? What do you think there's they're almost blackballing the subject? Why do you think that's happening?
Again, I guess it just doesn't fit in with the conventional, perspectives, and it's just a tendency to try and keep things as they are and not question them and not throw a spanner in the works by saying, oh, yes, there was a race of giants that used to live here.
You see, they are powerful lobbies in action. I mean, imagine that whole generations of professors and researchers have based the current status on things that are completely wrong. How would they feel if something comes out and tells them all your research is rubbish?
Right. That right there is a major problem with all science in general.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
The arrogance kills me.
Yep.
Just absolutely
Exactly.
kills me.
I mean, this is why we're never going
It's
to.
really hindering us.
Yeah, that's why we're never going to progress
The
because
same-
everybody's afraid
yeah.
that that I was wrong. That's
The problem is that, if all this true knowledge came out, it would wreck a lot of religious control.
Exactly, religious thing. Yeah.
It's just gonna, what happens if the truth comes out that Jesus Christ was just a man, just a little bit tweaked and genetically engineered by aliens, and wasn't really the son of God, but son of what might have been an Egyptian god.
Right. Or something like that.
Yeah.
Julius
I think
Caesar.
a lot of people might freak out a little bit if they thought they had
Exactly.
alien DNA. Like, oh my God, I've got alien DNA. All the necrophiliacs are going right to the ER. We know.
Which is funny you say that, but then when they decoded the human genome, they did find a part of our DNA which
Yes, they
scientists
did.
labeled the alien DNA because they had no way to explain why we have it.
Yeah.
No other animal has it. So it's funny that in one sense they're like keeping the subject, blackballed, and in another sense they're telling you to your face, hey, by the way, guys, you have an alien DNA in your gene.
Yeah,
Yes.
There.
I mean, even in the scientific reports about the DNA testing, they just say we know that there was interbreeding between, let's say, Neanderthals and an unknown species. They
Right.
just say an unknown.
I read that
species.
article.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very interesting. Just unknown. Like,
That's so
really-
crazy.
That is. One of the reasons I really appreciate your site because, it puts all these subjects out there in such an informative way. You really could lose hours of your life on ancient origins and be okay. And be completely okay with it. Cause
Literally did all day, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank
I've done
you.
that. I have absolutely done that. Been on ancient
It's
origins
more
all
than
day.
a good read. It's more than a good
Well, what we try to do, we try to give a voice to people who are just given closed doors all the time because there are people that have really good research. So just to give an example, there are people investigating the age of the pyramids in Egypt, and they've come up with quite substantial evidence that the Egyptian pyramids
12,000.
are far older. Yeah, exactly. Around 10, 12,000 years old.
Yep.
And now they try and get this research published, and they just get the door closed in their face because, well, that's not in the textbooks, and
Right.
and that's just way too controversial to publish. And so we try and give a voice to these kind of researchers who've done really, really good work, but they haven't been able to really get it out there. So we want to try and give publicity to those kinds of people and that type of research.
Now, do you all have a vetting process before you let someone, come to your site and publish their work or anything like that?
Good question.
Well, we do it a lot ourselves, although we have this team of guest experts that we call upon a lot of times as well to get their opinion on things. But we want to have alternative perspectives, but they've got to have evidence and logic and reasoning behind it. It can't just be some wacky idea that's come from their head. There's got to be some basis to it before.
Let me tell you
we
something.
kind of-
You're dealing with a lot of folks in ufology. Logic is not exactly something you're going to get a whole lot of. Just warning you now. But it's a very admirable way of going about it. It really is because in reality, you're going to get a lot of folks that are just making stuff up that are trying to just inject stories and whatnot.
Hey, the doctor says I'm getting much better, so
Yeah.
Nobody was talking about you
Yeah,
this time,
yeah.
Chris.
Keep quiet, Chris. The medication is wearing off. Keep quiet.
It's funny though to see. It's not funny, but it's good to see researchers actually taking their time and researching people and things before they post it out there anywhere.
Yeah.
What are your favorite researchers in the field that you guys look at and not emulate their work, but want to strive to be as professional as they are?
One researcher that I quite like, probably because I really have a passion for the subject area he's interested in, is Brian Forster, because he's doing a lot in South America. So he's focused on Peru, the Paracas culture. Have you heard of the Paracas culture? They have the
Yes.
elongated skulls. Yeah, I love
Yep.
that subject.
Yeah, but the
Yeah,
Paracas skulls were were done by the binding as opposed to actually being born with the elongated skull.
Some no.
Well,
There's some proof that some are not done man-made. Continue. Sorry. April.
No. They've actually done measurements, from my understanding, where most of the Paraco skulls, have the same cavity space for
Most.
brain.
You said it right there. Most, not all.
Yeah.
April,
That's right.
continue.
So they found that 20% of them,
Right.
they could not identify them as being cranial deformation.
Correct.
Intentional, because they had about 5 different features of the skull that's different to a normal human skull. So, for example, the plates, the bone plates, there's meant to be like a certain line which shows the division between 2 parts, and there wasn't. It was just one
plate
part across the plate, across the back. I don't know the technical term of that plate.
No, you got it. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it was.
Also, holes in the skull where certain nerve fibers go through in a different place. So there were 5 different features that were completely different in 20% of them, not all of them. And so that kind of suggested that there were some individuals that were born that way. They were considered to be special people.
Right.
And so the others then emulated them by doing it intentionally. Because they wanted to.
Giving birth to an elongated skull kid must have been painful.
That could have been interesting.
And the interesting thing is that you find this same pattern all over the world. I mean, in Malta, they found thousands of.
Where? Malta,
thousands of elongated skulls at the bottom of which cave was it?
The Hypogeum.
Yeah, the Hypogeum. And they have pictures, they have photos of them, and then suddenly all of them disappeared. Somebody, who took them? I don't think it was the Vatican, but somebody took them, and all of them disappeared. And then you can find in Russia, and then you can find in so many countries. It doesn't make sense, even if it's head binding, it doesn't make sense to do it and to go through this procedure unless the person that you try to emulate is far superior than you.
Right.
Right.
It doesn't make sense.
Unless, right.
Yeah, a god.
Even a lot of the Egyptian pharaohs, the sculptures and the artwork shows some of them, like Akhenaten, with very elongated
Nefertiti
heads. Yeah, Nefertiti is another one. Very elongated heads.
That was definitely a theme for.
That's so many different, evidence of races that have been here. That have seen us. It just blows my mind that it's not a more mainstream subject, that it's not more talked about. I mean, because you guys are doing this research, so many of these indigenous people all share the same story. You've got the cave paintings, you find the bones, you find the artifacts, you've got all this. And even if the government does come and and take it away, you're on the ground, you're talking to these people, they're telling you these stories, and they all correlate. It's not like they're telling different stories. You can find the patterns.
Right.
It's like different
now,
I
got to throw out a question also when you have a chance. Also, talking about skulls, does anybody actually count or do any research onto people that had 6 fingers as opposed to just 5? And is there a separate genetic line for that?
There's a genetic defect for that. That is a mutation in the genome.
Is it a mutation or don't forget how you don't really see people with 6 fingers anymore since they killed them off in the Middle Ages. My question is that now that we have DNA traceability, has anybody really done a genetic tracing study on people that would have had 6 fingers as opposed to 5? Is it really a mutation? Is it really a mutation, or is that maybe another genetic thing? Because if you look at some of the paintings with Nefertiti, as well as Akhenaten, I was under the impression there were 6 fingers on a good portion of the paintings as opposed to 5.
I never knew about that. Never knew.
Hey, well, there you go. Your bucket list just got bigger.
Yes. I'll add that to the topic list.
And here, throw another. Let's throw another stone in the party here. What is not to say that these are not alien beings at all, but maybe just a different race of humans that lived thousands and thousands of years ago.
I mean, old race of humans, superior old race of humans.
Now here's the thing, and it's something that humans don't keep in perspective when we're talking about ancient civilization and our history. We only know a very little tiny portion of what our history is.
Yeah.
But this planet's been around for 4 billion years.
Yeah.
So there's a very good chance that evolution's happened several times. It's come and gone.
Yes.
We know about the dinosaurs, but we don't know much about everything else that happened after the dinosaurs. And we only know about the dinosaurs, or before the dinosaurs. We only know about the dinosaurs because we found some bones. So we even speculate on how that time period was. We don't know if there were men also in that time period. We don't know a lot of the history on this planet. There's a good 3 billion plus, almost 4 billion plus years that we have no idea what happened on this planet. So there's a very good chance that some of these beings that are being considered aliens or ancient aliens, maybe not from the sky at all. Maybe they were always here because they are humans, just an earlier version of humans. And what we're now is the descendants of these beings.
Well, it makes total sense too as you go back into dinosaur days, where everything was big, everything was gigantic size. So why
evolution went from giant to down?
Sure.
Yeah.
Everything was pure. Everything in the earth back then, as far as I'd imagine, was pure. I mean, there were, I'm sure, no cars and locomotives and things going around to pollute the air, and so everything was definitely a lot bigger and more rich, and definitely flourished for sure. And I can see,
and who's to say that these, they may have had the power of flight, and so when you see these ancient, depictions of flying crafts and things, you're right. Maybe it wasn't UFOs. Maybe it was relating to an advanced civilization of humans in the past.
Well, we have the legends of Atlantis, of Lemuria, of Hyperborea, which, so all of them, they were considered to be advanced civilizations, but we don't have any evidence. So
what
who
was
knows?
the third one? You said I'm familiar with it.
Hyboria.
Hyboria,
Was not familiar with that one.
This is considered to be the first, according to the legends, the first human civilization. After it was Lemurians, and after it was Atlanteans, and then us.
Interesting. Yeah, I was familiar with Atlantis and Lemuria. I was not familiar with the other one. So that's
more homework for you, Crystal. I got to do.
I know. 4 hours of my life I'm wasting on the internet.
Well, I wanted to say, to go back a little bit on Klaus Donna on the bone that he did find on the giant. I believe he said it was into the 20 feet range, height of the giant of the bone that apparently that he said. So. We're talking a very, very, very big, person.
Yeah, this is not a guy who belongs in the NBA. This guy belongs in his own professional league.
So,
wow,
very big.
That's pretty big. Yeah, that's a large. That's a large
fella. On the full size, that's really where I'm going at. I've talked to Donna, to Klaus a couple times on it, and so both times I'm sure he said it was in the 20 feet. So
which actually that will correlate with the Nephilim again from the Bible. About 15, 20 feet was around the size of the Nephilim, and they were white-skinned Nordic-looking folks. So again, biblical, religious, works correlates to indigenous works. Yeah, it's kind of weird and creepy, but the more we research this stuff, the more interesting it does become. And maybe one day we'll actually have an answer that we could all sink our teeth in and be like, "Yeah, that's it. That's the history of the world encapsulated, and that's the answer of everything." Until then, though, unfortunately, we are out of time. But we definitely want to have you two back on because it's been a fascinating hour with both of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's gone by too quick. I want to
Where are you guys headed to next?
Yeah, please.
Ecuador for?
Probably Ireland.
Nice.
Oh.
What's in Ireland? Tell us.
Everything.
I know.
Hey, Angel, who's our good friend
fish
that's
and
in
chips?
Ireland?
If you're going to go to Ireland, you got to say hi to our good buddy James Swagger.
Yeah, you got to get some fish and chips too.
That too, yes. But go visit James Swagger, Capricorn Radio. Shout outs to him, good friend of our show here, and he has a fabulous show out there.
Guy.
You'll love him. He's an amazing person.
He does a lot of work into the New Grange, some of these old ancient sites over there, Celtic sites and so on.
Yeah.
If you can link up with him, that's going to be phenomenal. I'd love just to listen to that show because he is a well of information himself. The website again is ancient-origins.net. Is that correct?
That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
that's it.
Awesome. Ancient-origins.net. If you don't know what the dash is, that's the little symbol right after the 0 key on the very top of your keyboard. Click that and then origins.net, and you have the website. It's a fabulous website. We're going to link it on our website, by the way, just to let you know it's going to be on our Skywatchers Radio website. And again, thank you so much for both of you being here, and hopefully we can have you back on pretty soon. It's been a fascinating hour. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting us.
Guys, stick around. There's going to be more show on PSN Radio here within the next couple minutes. We're all out of time, unfortunately, but it's been a fun couple hours here, and we'll be back next week with another great guest, which is going to be who, Chris?
We'll let you know.
What?
What?
Let you know.
Crystal? Nobody knows the guest next week.
Yeah, we had a guest, but then we didn't have a guest.
Oh, that's right.
So, yeah. But on this month, we have a very exciting month coming up on Skywatchers. We'll have Grant Cameron about UFOs and presidents.
There you go.
We'll have Jennifer, whose last name I can't pronounce, on to talk about demonology. And then the 1st of June, we have Stacey Horn, who wrote a book about the scientific evidence for ESP.
Oh, okay.
Very, very nice.
Right.
We're going to have a fun month.
Somebody up tomorrow, guys. So
good job.
We'll have somebody
Get on that. You get on that, Mr. Brown.
Yeah.
You do that.
You do that.
I want you to get the guys from the Phoenix incident. You really got to reach out.
He's still talking about this.
Yes, we got to make
we
that
gotta get off
happen.
air before I yell at the other guy.
Yeah, we got to make that happen for him. Guys, it's been fun. We'll see you next week right here on Skywatchers Radio. Please stick around and come back next week. Hang out with us. Good night.